From the jungles of Burma to the islands of the Pacific, Japanese military vehicles carried the weight of an empire's ambitions. But how did these machines perform when the war turned against them?
In the 1930s, Japan faced a critical challenge. The nation's industrial capacity lagged behind Western powers, yet its military ambitions stretched across Asia. Engineers in Tokyo and Osaka worked within severe constraints: limited raw materials, restricted access to advanced technology, and an economy still recovering from global depression. The Imperial Japanese Army's vehicle doctrine emerged from lessons learned in Manchuria. Between 1931 and 1937, Japanese forces tested early tank designs against Chinese opposition. The Type 89 I-Go medium tank, introduced in 1929, became Japan's first domestically produced armored vehicle. Weighing 12.7 tons and armed with a 57mm gun, it performed adequately in China, but revealed critical weaknesses in armor protection and mechanical reliability. By 1935, Japanese military planners recognized the need for lighter, more mobile vehicles suited to Asian terrain. The Type 95 Ha-Go light tank emerged as the solution. Weighing just 7.4 tons, powered by a Mitsubishi air-cooled diesel engine producing 120 horsepower, the Ha-Go could traverse rice paddies and jungle trails where heavier Western tanks failed. Its 37mm main gun and two 7.7mm machine guns provided adequate firepower for infantry support operations. The Type 97 Chi-Ha medium tank, introduced in 1937, represented Japan's most significant pre-war armored achievement. With a weight of 15 tons, a 170-horsepower diesel engine, and a 57mm gun, the Chi-Ha balanced mobility with combat capability. By December 1941, approximately 1,220 Chi-Ha tanks had been produced, forming the backbone of Japanese armored divisions. Japanese military transport relied heavily on trucks adapted from civilian designs. The Isuzu Type 94 truck, the Nissan 80 series, and the Toyota KB truck formed the logistical foundation of the Imperial Army. These vehicles, while mechanically simple and reliable, suffered from limited load capacity and poor cross-country performance compared to American equivalents. Naval landing operations required specialized amphibious vehicles. The Type 2 Ka-Mi amphibious tank, though not deployed until 1943, reflected pre-war planning for Pacific operations. Engineers understood that island warfare would demand vehicles capable of transitioning from water to land. The philosophy behind Japanese vehicle design emphasized adaptability over firepower, simplicity over sophistication. With limited steel production and restricted fuel supplies, Japanese engineers created vehicles that could operate on minimal resources. This approach would prove both a strength and a fatal weakness as the war progressed.
December 1941 marked the beginning of Japan's most successful military period. From Malaya to the Philippines, Japanese forces advanced with unprecedented speed. Their vehicles, though technically inferior to Allied counterparts, proved devastatingly effective in jungle warfare. In Malaya, Type 95 Ha-Go tanks spearheaded General Yamashita's advance down the peninsula. British forces, equipped with heavier tanks designed for European warfare, struggled in the dense tropical environment. Japanese tanks, lighter and more maneuverable, navigated narrow jungle trails and crossed rivers that stopped British armor. The fall of Singapore in February 1942 demonstrated how tactical mobility could overcome technical superiority. The Philippines campaign revealed similar patterns. Type 97 Chi-Ha tanks supported infantry assaults against American and Filipino defensive positions. The tank's diesel engines, more fuel-efficient than gasoline-powered Allied vehicles, extended operational range in regions where fuel supply lines remained tenuous. Japanese motorcycles played a crucial tactical role often overlooked in historical accounts. The Rikuo Type 97 motorcycle, a licensed copy of the Harley-Davidson, carried dispatch riders, reconnaissance units, and light infantry. Thousands of these motorcycles enabled rapid communication and flexible battlefield response across the vast distances of Southeast Asia. Truck-mounted infantry became a hallmark of Japanese tactics during this period. Type 94 and Type 97 trucks transported entire battalions to battle zones, then served as mobile supply depots. The speed of Japanese advances in Burma, Malaya, and the Dutch East Indies owed as much to effective motor transport as to tactical brilliance. The Type 92 heavy armored car, armed with a 13mm machine gun, served effectively in reconnaissance and security roles. Its six-wheel design provided good road speed, though limited off-road capability restricted its deployment primarily to areas with developed infrastructure. Perhaps most innovative was Japan's use of bicycles. Entire infantry divisions traveled through Malaya on bicycles, moving faster than motor vehicles on jungle paths. This low-tech solution exemplified Japanese military pragmatism, using whatever worked regardless of conventional military doctrine. Naval operations demanded specialized vehicles. The Daihatsu-class landing craft, though technically a watercraft, functioned as an armored transport vehicle. These 14-meter craft, capable of carrying 70 troops or a Type 95 tank, enabled the island-hopping operations that characterized early Pacific campaigns. By mid-1942, Japanese forces controlled territory from Burma to the Gilbert Islands. Their vehicles, operating at the limits of supply lines, had performed beyond expectations. But this success masked growing problems. Maintenance difficulties increased, spare parts became scarce, and American industrial might was only beginning to mobilize. What would you say was Japan's biggest advantage in these early campaigns? Drop your answer in the comments.
1943 brought sobering realities. American M4 Sherman tanks with 75mm guns and superior armor outmatched Japanese vehicles in every encounter. At Tarawa, Marine Corps M4 Shermans destroyed Japanese Type 95 tanks with single shots. The 37mm guns of Japanese light tanks could barely penetrate Sherman armor. Japanese engineers responded with urgent modifications. The Type 97 Chiha Shinhoto, an upgraded version with a 47mm high-velocity gun, entered production in 1943. This weapon could penetrate Sherman armor at close range, but only 930 Shinhoto tanks were built before war's end. Production constraints prevented mass deployment. The Type 3 Chi-Nu medium tank represented Japan's most ambitious armored vehicle project. Armed with a 75mm gun comparable to the Sherman's main weapon, powered by a 240-horsepower engine, the Chi-Nu weighed 18.8 tons. Yet only 166 units were completed. Japanese industry simply could not match American production rates. In 1943 alone, American factories produced over 29,000 tanks, while Japan managed fewer than 800. Specialized vehicles emerged from desperate necessity. The Type 4 Horo self-propelled gun, mounted a 150mm howitzer on a Chiha chassis. These vehicles provided mobile artillery support for static defensive positions. Only 12 were produced. The Type 1 Honi self-propelled gun, mounting a 75mm gun on a Chiha chassis, attempted to create a tank destroyer capable of engaging Shermans at range. Production reached 111 units before program cancellation. Resources simply weren't available for specialized vehicle programs. Japanese military transport faced
catastrophic problems by 1944. American submarine warfare devastated shipping. Trucks, spare parts, and fuel supplies dwindled. Vehicles that reached Pacific Islands often sat immobilized, lacking fuel or maintenance capacity. The Type 1 Hoki armored personnel carrier represented an attempt to mechanize infantry transport. With capacity for 13 soldiers and armor resistant to small arms fire, the Hoki could have revolutionized Japanese infantry tactics. Only 34 were built. Steel shortages and bombing damage to factories prevented mass production. Innovation occurred in unexpected areas. The Type 98 Roque flamethrower tank, a Type 97 Chiha modified with a flamethrower system, saw limited use in Pacific bunker warfare. These specialized vehicles proved effective in close combat, but were too few to impact strategic outcomes. Japanese engineers also experimented with amphibious vehicles for island defense. The Type 2 Kami, equipped with detachable flotation pontoons, could travel at 9 kilometers per hour in water. Approximately 182 units were produced, most deployed in defensive positions throughout the Pacific. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this deep dive into World War II history, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Narrated Stories brings you meticulously researched historical content you won't find anywhere else. The fundamental problem remained unchanged. Japan lacked the industrial capacity to compete with American production. While Japanese factories struggled to produce hundreds of tanks, American plants produced thousands. The technological gap was widening, not closing.
By late 1944, Japan's vehicle strategy shifted entirely to defensive operations. Islands from Saipan to Okinawa became fortress positions, where vehicles served as static pillboxes rather than mobile weapons. At Iwo Jima in February 1945, Japanese forces had positioned Type 95 Hago tanks in prepared emplacements, their turrets exposed above ground to provide fire support. These immobilized vehicles, lacking fuel to maneuver, fought as stationary gun positions. American flamethrower tanks and naval gunfire methodically destroyed them. Okinawa represented Japan's last major defensive operation. The Imperial Army deployed approximately 27 tanks and 13 armored cars to the island. Most were Type 95 Hago and Type 97 Chiha variants, now obsolete against the latest American armor. Japanese tankers knew their vehicles were outmatched. They developed tactics emphasizing ambush and close-range engagement, where their lighter guns might penetrate Sherman armor. The kamikaze spirit extended to ground vehicles. Type 97 trucks were converted into suicide vehicles, packed with explosives and driven into American positions. These desperate tactics inflicted casualties but could not alter strategic outcomes. The vehicles that had carried Japanese armies to victory in 1942 now served as improvised weapons of last resort. Maintenance had become impossible. Spare parts, lubricants, and replacement engines no longer reached frontline units. Vehicles broke down and were abandoned. Mechanics cannibalized working vehicles to keep a few operational. Type 94 trucks, once reliable workhorses, sat rusting in jungle clearings. Their useful life ended by lack of basic supplies. The Type 3 Chinu tanks, Japan's best armored vehicles, never saw combat. All 166 produced remained in Japan, reserved for homeland defense against the anticipated American invasion. These vehicles, which might have made a difference at Okinawa or Iwo Jima, sat in depots until war's end. Japanese industry made final desperate efforts. The Type 5 Chi-Ri medium tank, designed to mount an 88mm gun comparable to German heavy tanks, existed only as prototypes. The Type 5 Toku amphibious vehicle reached testing stages but never entered production. These projects consumed resources that might have supported existing vehicle fleets.
home defense preparations revealed the depth of Japanese desperation. Type 89 tanks from the 1930s, long obsolete, were positioned around Japanese cities. Type 92 armored cars, designed for Manchurian roads, prepared to defend Tokyo streets. Even civilian trucks were requisitioned and fitted with improvised armor. The final vehicle operations occurred in Manchuria in August 1945. When Soviet forces invaded, they encountered Type 97 tanks and Type 94 trucks defending the border. Soviet T-34 tanks and mechanized infantry quickly overwhelmed these outdated vehicles. The Kwantung Army's vaunted armor proved no match for Soviet firepower and mobility. On August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito announced surrender. Throughout the Pacific, on islands from Rabaul to Borneo, Japanese vehicles sat silent. Their crews emerged from jungle positions, their mechanical warhorses abandoned where they stood.
The story of Japanese military vehicles in World War II reflects broader truths about industrial warfare. Technical specifications matter less than production capacity. Tactical brilliance cannot overcome strategic disadvantage, and mechanical reliability proves more valuable than sophisticated design. Japanese vehicle design philosophy emphasized certain principles that influenced post-war development. Diesel engines, favored by Japanese engineers for efficiency and fire safety, became standard in armored vehicles worldwide. The emphasis on lightweight and mobility presaged modern military doctrine. Air-cooled engines, used in several Japanese tank designs, influenced later air-cooled diesel development. Statistical analysis reveals stark realities. From 1941 to 1945, Japan produced approximately 6,300 tanks and armored vehicles. During the same period, the United States produced over 88,000. Britain manufactured 27,000. Germany, despite fighting on multiple fronts, produced 46,000. Japan's industrial base simply could not sustain mechanized warfare at the scale required. The Type 95 Hago, while inferior to Allied tanks in direct combat, demonstrated excellent fuel efficiency and mechanical reliability. Many captured Hago tanks were used by Allied forces after the war. Chinese Communist forces operated captured Japanese vehicles during their civil war. The Hago's simple design and reliable engine made it easy to maintain with minimal spare parts. Post-war examination of Japanese armored vehicles revealed interesting engineering choices. The use of riveted construction, while weaker than welding, allowed faster production with less skilled labor. The air-cooled diesel engines, though underpowered, required less cooling system maintenance. These practical solutions reflected Japanese industrial limitations, but also demonstrated creative engineering under constraint. The Type 97 Chiha influenced post-war Japanese industrial vehicle design. The same Mitsubishi engineers who designed military tanks later applied their knowledge to civilian trucks and construction equipment. The diesel engine expertise developed for military vehicles helped establish Japan's post-war commercial vehicle industry. Perhaps the most significant legacy lies in lessons learned about amphibious operations. Japanese development of specialized landing craft and amphibious vehicles, though limited by resources, influenced Allied thinking. The American LVTP series of amphibious vehicles incorporated concepts observed in Japanese designs. Modern military historians debate what might have occurred if Japan had possessed greater industrial capacity. Could better vehicles have changed the war's outcome? Most analysts conclude no. The fundamental problem wasn't vehicle quality, but quantity. Japan faced opponents with superior resources, larger populations, and greater industrial capacity. No amount of clever engineering could overcome those basic disadvantages.
The vehicles themselves, those that survived the war, can be found in museums worldwide. The Bovington Tank Museum in England houses a Type 95 Hago. The National Museum of the Pacific War in Texas displays a Type 97 Chiha. These preserved machines stand as testament to Japanese engineering ingenuity and the soldiers who operated them in history's most destructive conflict. What surprised you most about Japanese military vehicles in WW2? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this documentary informative, don't forget to subscribe to Narrated Stories for more in-depth historical content. Your support helps us continue bringing these forgotten stories to light. Thank you for watching.